Daniel liked quiet places. He often went on long walks outside his small town, where the land opened into wide green hills and small forests. Life in the town was simple, but Daniel always felt the world was larger than what he could see. Sometimes he brought his dog Max with him, sometimes he walked alone. That evening, the sky carried soft colors as the sun sank low. The air was calm, yet Daniel felt something unusual in the air, as if something waited for him. He followed a narrow path into the forest, carrying a small flashlight and a bottle of water. The forest was never dangerous, but shadows stretched long when the sun lowered. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke the stillness. Daniel stopped, expecting maybe a deer or a wild rabbit. But what stepped out from behind the tall trees was not an animal at all. A figure stumbled forward, dressed in strange silver clothing that shimmered faintly. It was a girl, but her features were not quite human. Her eyes were larger, glowing faintly with a deep blue shine. Her skin was smooth with a faint silver tone as if touched by starlight. She looked weak, swaying on her feet as if she had traveled far and could go no farther. Daniel froze. His heart beat quickly, not from fear but from shock. He had never seen anything like her. The girl looked at him with wide eyes as if she was just as surprised to find him. She tried to speak, but her voice came out low and strained in a language Daniel did not understand. She raised a trembling hand, then collapsed to her knees. Without thinking, Daniel ran forward. His first thought was not about where she came from or who she was. His first thought was simple. She needed help. He pulled the water bottle from his bag and offered it to her. She blinked, confused, then slowly took it. At first she seemed unsure, but when she tasted the water, relief spread across her face. She drank deeply, her hands shaking as she held the bottle. Daniel knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, even though he knew she might not understand. She gave a weak nod, her strange blue eyes never leaving his. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. The only sound was the quiet flow of water in the distance and the soft hum of insects in the forest. Then Daniel noticed her breathing was heavy, as if she had been running. He looked around, half expecting someone or something to follow her, but the forest remained still. The girl tried to rise to her feet, but her legs gave out. Daniel quickly reached forward to steady her. She leaned on him, light yet trembling, her strength nearly gone. He guided her to a fallen log nearby so she could rest. She sat down slowly, her strange clothing catching the last orange light of the sun. She looked fragile, but there was also something powerful about her presence. Daniel did not understand it, but he felt it. The girl lifted a hand to her chest and said a word, soft but clear, "Arya." She tapped her chest again, then repeated, "Arya." Daniel realized she was giving him her name. He pointed to himself and said, "Daniel." He gave a small smile, hoping she would understand. Her lips curved faintly in return, a small but gentle smile as if his kindness had touched her. For a short while they sat in silence. Daniel shared a piece of bread he had in his bag. She took it carefully, tasting it as if it was something strange but welcome. Her eyes softened and Daniel sensed gratitude in them. He could not explain why, but he felt a connection growing in that quiet forest. Soon the sound of distant engines echoed above. Daniel looked up and saw lights flashing through the clouds, moving quickly across the darkening sky. Arya's expression changed instantly. Fear flashed across her face. She stood suddenly, her strength returning in a rush of panic. She pointed toward the sky, then back to herself, then shook her head. It was as if she was telling him she had to go, that she did not want to be found. Daniel stepped back, unsure what to do. He wanted to ask her questions, but there was no time. She placed her hand over her heart, then gently touched her fingers to his arm, a gesture filled with thanks. Her eyes shone brighter for a moment, almost as if she wanted to remember his face forever. Then she turned and moved quickly into the trees, her steps lighter now as if she had regained her hidden strength. Daniel stood alone, staring after her until she vanished into the forest shadows. He felt as if he had witnessed something rare, something meant only for him. The sky above grew darker, and the strange light soon faded beyond the hills. That night, Daniel lay in bed replaying the moment again and again. He could not explain what he had seen, nor did he try. All he knew was that he had met someone who did not belong to this world, and he had helped her. He thought it was the end of the story, but what Daniel did not know was that the girl named Arya would never forget him, and their paths would meet again in a way that would change both their worlds forever. Years passed after that strange night in the forest. Daniel still remembered the silver-skinned girl named Arya, though he sometimes wondered if his mind had invented the whole meeting. He told no one about it, not even his closest friends, because he knew they would laugh or call him a dreamer. Life in his small town carried on in its slow rhythm. Daniel worked in a repair shop, walked his dog Max through the fields, and tried to ignore the restless feeling that always lived quietly in his heart. One evening, as the sun lowered into the horizon, Daniel noticed something unusual in the sky. At first he thought it was a storm, but the lights were too sharp, too bright, and moved in strange patterns. People came out of their homes, pointing upward. The lights multiplied, spreading in a wide formation across the clouds. A deep humming sound filled the air, shaking the ground beneath his feet. The townspeople gasped as several enormous shapes broke through the atmosphere. They were ships, vast and gleaming, descending slowly with perfect order. Daniel's heart raced. It was not a dream this time. The skies themselves were announcing something extraordinary. The ships landed in a flat area outside the town, their hulls shining silver and blue, with markings that no one could read. Soldiers and scientists from Earth rushed toward the site, but the townsfolk only watched from a safe distance. Daniel stood among them, staring, unable to look away. The largest ship opened first, releasing a ramp that touched the ground with a soft thud. From within, rows of armored figures stepped out, their uniforms sharp and polished, their faces calm but unreadable. Behind them came officials dressed in flowing garments, their colors bright and their designs unlike anything seen on Earth. The crowd grew silent, waiting for what would come next. And then she appeared. From the shadow of the great ship, a young woman walked slowly down the ramp. She was dressed in royal attire, a long gown of silver threads that seemed to catch the light of the setting sun. Her crown was small, elegant, resting lightly on her smooth, silver-toned hair. Her eyes were deep blue, glowing faintly as if carrying the light of distant stars. Daniel's breath caught. Even after all those years, he recognized her. It was Arya, but she was no longer the weak girl he had found in the forest. She carried herself with the grace of someone important, someone admired, someone who held authority. The soldiers moved with precision around her, guarding her path, while the alien officials bowed their heads as she passed. The humans whispered in awe. They had not expected their first contact with aliens to include royalty. As Arya reached the ground, she paused. Her gaze moved slowly across the gathered humans. To everyone else, it seemed like a queen looking over new subjects. But for Arya, something else stirred inside. The wind shifted. Among the scent of soil and grass, a familiar trace touched her senses. Her steps faltered. She froze where she stood, her eyes wide. She knew that scent. She had carried the memory of it for years, tied to a night long ago when she was weak and afraid, and a human boy had offered her water and kindness. Her heart raced as her gaze swept over the crowd. She searched quickly, her composure almost breaking. And then she saw him. Daniel stood near the back, quiet and unnoticed by the people around him. He had changed, older now, taller, his face more defined, but she knew. It was him, the human who had saved her when she was lost. Their eyes met. For Daniel, it was a shock like lightning. He had never expected to see her again, yet here she was, standing in front of the whole world, dressed as a princess. He felt the weight of every year collapse into that single moment. Arya's guards moved closer, sensing her hesitation. She forced herself to remain calm, but inside she felt a rush of emotion. She had traveled across stars, visited many worlds, but she had never forgotten the boy from Earth. Now fate had placed him before her again. The ceremony continued. Earth's officials stepped forward, speaking carefully, welcoming the alien visitors. They offered words of peace and friendship. The aliens responded with dignity, explaining their purpose of diplomacy and exchange. But through it all, Arya's thoughts drifted again and again toward the one face in the crowd. Daniel stood still, his mind filled with questions. Should he approach her? Should he even try? Would she remember him? Or had he only been a small moment in her life? He could not know. Yet the way she had paused, the way her eyes had found him, gave him hope. As the royal fleet's arrival ceremony ended, Arya was guided back toward her ship. But as she passed, her eyes returned once more to Daniel. It was only for a second, yet the look in her eyes told him everything. She remembered. That night, Daniel lay awake in his small home, unable to rest. The world had changed forever. Aliens had landed. A princess walked the earth, and she had looked at him as if their story was not finished. Far above, inside the royal flagship, Arya stood at her window, staring down at the quiet town below. She whispered the name she had carried for years, soft but clear in the silence of her chambers. Daniel. She knew their paths would cross again. The next day, the entire town buzzed with excitement. Newspapers and television stations reported every detail about the alien fleet. Scientists rushed in, reporters swarmed the streets, and soldiers guarded the landing site. People filled the open fields, hoping to glimpse the visitors again. Daniel tried to stay away, but curiosity pulled him back. He told himself he only wanted to see the ships one more time, to remind himself this was real. But deep down, he knew there was another reason. He could not shake the memory of Arya's eyes locking with his. The way she had stopped, the way her gaze lingered, it was not imagination. She had recognized him. He joined the crowd gathered near the fences that marked the edge of the landing zone. Children sat on their parents' shoulders, pointing at the towering ships that gleamed in the morning sun. The air buzzed with energy, a mix of excitement and nervous fear. Everyone wanted to know why the aliens had come and what they would do next. Trumpets sounded from the ships, a soft yet commanding tone that silenced the chatter. Slowly, the ramps lowered again, and the royal guards marched out with perfect steps. Their armor shone as if polished with light itself. Behind them came advisors carrying strange tablets that glowed with symbols. And then, with grace and calm, Princess Arya stepped forward once more. Her gown today shimmered in soft blue, the color of calm oceans. A crown rested lightly on her head, and her movements carried dignity. To the crowd, she looked like a vision from a dream. People gasped, whispering about her beauty and her strange presence. Cameras clicked rapidly, capturing every detail. Daniel watched her carefully, his heart pounding. He told himself not to expect anything. She was a princess, a royal figure among stars. He was just a repairman from a small town. Still, he could not look away. As Arya stood before the crowd, she turned her head slightly, her eyes scanning the sea of humans. For most, it seemed like a simple gesture, a leader acknowledging those before her. But Daniel knew what she was searching for, and then it happened. Her gaze found him. The connection was instant, as if time froze. Her lips parted slightly, her breath catching. The memory of the forest came back to her in a rush. The boy with gentle eyes, the bottle of water, the bread he had shared. She had never forgotten. She could still feel the touch of his hand helping her stand. And now here he was, standing among his people, unchanged in spirit though years had passed. Whispers spread through the alien guards. They noticed their princess had paused. Her attention lingered too long on a single human. They shifted uneasily, exchanging quiet glances, but none dared interrupt her. The humans in the crowd noticed too. Some turned to see who she was looking at, but Daniel remained still, his face calm, though inside his chest his heart raced. He wanted to speak, but the words would not come. Arya stepped forward, breaking the formal line of her guards. Gasps rose from both humans and aliens alike. It was not planned. She moved closer to the fence that separated her from the crowd. The guards hesitated, clearly unsure if they should follow or hold back. Daniel's feet felt rooted to the ground. He could not move even as she drew nearer. Her blue eyes never left his. The space between them closed until only a few steps remained. She lifted her hand slowly, not touching the fence but holding it near as if reaching toward him. The crowd murmured in wonder. Some thought it was a sign of peace, others a gesture of blessing. But Daniel understood. She was not greeting the humans in general. She was reaching for him. A sudden voice called out in the alien tongue, firm and commanding. An elder advisor stepped forward, his expression sharp. The spell of the moment broke. Arya lowered her hand but kept her gaze fixed on Daniel a moment longer, her expression soft with memory and unspoken words. Then, with a graceful turn, she walked back toward her guards. The crowd cheered, believing they had witnessed a symbol of goodwill. Cameras flashed, and reporters shouted that the alien princess had shown affection toward Earth. But Daniel knew the truth. That moment had been personal, meant for him alone. As the ships closed their ramps once more, Daniel's mind swirled with questions. Why had she remembered him? What would happen next? Was this only chance, or was it destiny pulling them together again? That night, as the world replayed the images of the princess reaching toward the crowd, Daniel sat alone in his small home. The television showed her graceful figure, her hand lifted as if blessing humanity. But Daniel knew the truth behind that look. She had remembered. She had chosen him out of thousands of faces. Far above, within her chambers on the flagship, Arya sat quietly. She thought of the boy who was now a man, the human who had once saved her with simple kindness. She touched her hand to her chest, whispering the name that still lived in her memory, Daniel. And in her heart she promised herself, this time, she would not let fate separate them again. The morning after the second ceremony, the royal council gathered inside the flagship. The chamber was wide and bright, with tall windows that looked down upon the green fields of earth. Advisors sat around a long table, their silver robes shining softly under the light. Guards stood at attention along the walls, their eyes sharp and watchful. At the head of the table sat Princess Arya, calm but restless inside. She tried to appear collected, yet her thoughts kept drifting toward Daniel. His face, his steady eyes, and the memory of his kindness long ago pulled at her heart. She could not deny the bond she felt. The eldest advisor, Lord Saren, cleared his throat. His voice was deep and commanding. Your Highness, the humans look to us for guidance. Your every gesture carries meaning. Yesterday you stepped out of line, breaking the order of ceremony. You moved toward a human, and the eyes of both worlds were upon you. Do you understand the weight of that action? Arya lifted her chin. I understand, but I also know that humans are not strangers to us. I wanted to show them that we do not see them as less. Saren frowned. There are ways to show respect without singling out one man from the crowd. You risked sending the wrong message. Some may believe you are too easily swayed by emotion. Another advisor, Lady Elira, spoke gently but firmly. Your Highness, the humans are curious but also cautious. If they think you favor one of them above all, it could bring jealousy or suspicion. Even among our own people, questions will rise. Why him? Why this one human? Arya pressed her hands together on the table. She felt the pressure of their words, but she could not lie, because he is not just any human. He once saved me. Years ago, when I was lost and weak, he gave me water, food, and kindness. I would not be here today if not for him. His face is one I have carried in memory. I did not expect to find him again, yet fate has returned him to me. How can I pretend otherwise? The chamber fell silent. The council exchanged uneasy glances. They had heard stories of her disappearance during her youth, but few knew the details. Now it was clear, her savior had been human. Lord Saren spoke again, his tone sharper. With respect, Princess, such personal ties are dangerous. You are heir to a throne. You cannot let your heart guide decisions that affect entire worlds. Our people expect strength, not attachment to a species we barely know. Arya met his gaze firmly. Strength is not only in power, it is also in compassion. He showed me that when I was vulnerable. That memory shaped who I am. If we come to Earth only to demand respect, we will earn nothing. But if we come with honesty, we will gain trust. Daniel is proof that humans can be trusted. The council shifted uneasily. Some whispered among themselves, others avoided her eyes. To them her words were bold, perhaps even reckless. But Arya's resolve did not waver. Meanwhile, down in the town, Daniel walked through the streets, hearing fragments of conversation from every corner. People spoke about the princess who had looked at him. Some thought she had chosen him as a symbol. Others claimed it was only coincidence. A few even laughed, saying Daniel must be imagining it. Daniel kept quiet, but deep inside he knew what he had seen. She remembered him, and though the thought filled him with wonder, it also filled him with doubt. What did it mean for someone like him to be noticed by someone like her? She was a princess from another world, and he was no more than a repairman. That evening, Daniel sat outside his small house with his dog Max at his feet. He looked toward the hills where the alien ships rested, their lights glowing faintly under the stars. What am I supposed to do now? He whispered. Max only wagged his tail, resting his head on Daniel's knee. Inside the flagship, Arya stood by her window, staring at the same stars. She thought of Daniel, the human who had once saved her and who had now become the center of her struggle. She knew the council would not easily accept her connection to him. She knew her people would question her judgment. But her heart was steady. She had spent years remembering his face, carrying it like a secret flame. Now that fate had returned him to her, she would not let that flame die. Yet she also understood the danger. If she stepped too far, she could bring conflict between humans and her people. If she stayed silent, she would betray her own heart. The tension between worlds had begun, not with armies or weapons, but with a single bond between a princess and a human. And as both sides watched carefully, waiting for the next move, Arya and Daniel each felt the weight of destiny pressing closer. Neither of them knew how the days ahead would unfold, but both knew one truth that would not change. They had found each other again, and no force, no counsel, no distance between stars could erase that bond. The night was quiet. The stars scattered across the sky like silver dust. Daniel walked along the riverbank with Max at his side, trying to clear his mind. Ever since the princess had looked at him, his life no longer felt the same. People in town still whispered about her gaze, but Daniel stayed silent. He carried the secret weight of truth. Their bond was real. He crouched by the water, watching the moon's reflection dance on the surface. Max barked softly, ears pricked. Daniel looked up. Someone stood across the river, cloaked in silver blue fabric that shimmered faintly in the night light. His heart stopped. It was her. Princess Arya stepped forward slowly, her gown trailing behind her, though tonight she wore no crown, no guard, no sign of royalty except her presence. She looked almost like the girl he had once met in the forest, though her grace was sharper now. Her blue eyes shone with the same warmth he remembered. Daniel rose to his feet. "You came," he whispered, unsure if she could even hear him. She crossed the shallow stones carefully, her steps light and quiet. When she reached him, she smiled faintly. "Daniel," she said, her voice soft, accented but clear. She had learned his language since the last time. Hearing her speak his name made his chest tighten. "You remember me," Daniel said, almost in disbelief. "How could I forget?" She replied. "The night I met you changed me. I was lost, weak, and frightened. You gave me kindness when I had nothing. I have carried that memory every day since." They stood in silence for a moment, the river flowing gently beside them. Daniel could barely believe she was there, close enough to touch. He wanted to ask so many questions, yet he feared breaking the fragile moment. Arya glanced at the sky as if checking for watchers. "I should not be here," she admitted. "My council forbids contact outside official meetings. But I had to see you. I had to speak to you," Daniel swallowed. "Why, I'm just an ordinary man. I don't understand why I matter to you." She shook her head gently. "You are not ordinary to me. You are the one who showed me humanity's heart. To my people, Earth is only another world in the stars. But to me, it is the place where I learned what true courage is. You saved me not with strength, but with care. That is something even kings and warriors forget." Her words struck deeply. Daniel remembered that night clearly. The frightened girl in strange clothes, the simple act of giving her water, steadying her when she could not walk. He had not thought it was heroic. It had been instinct. But to her it was more. Arya stepped closer. "The council will not accept what I feel. They see humans as fragile, untested. They believe my bond with you is weakness. But I cannot pretend you are not part of my life. Do you understand?" Daniel nodded slowly, though confusion still stirred in him. "I don't know what this means for us. You're a princess. I fix machines. Our worlds couldn't be more different." Her lips curved into a small, sad smile. "And yet here we are." Max barked softly, as if agreeing. Arya bent slightly, reaching out to let the dog sniff her hand. Max wagged his tail and licked her fingers, earning a laugh from her, light and genuine. Daniel felt his chest warm at the sound. For a brief moment, the stars above, the river beside them, and her laughter made the world feel simple again. But the weight of reality soon returned. Arya's smile faded and she straightened. "I cannot stay long. If they discover I am here, it will bring trouble. But I wanted you to know. You are not forgotten, and you never will be. Whatever happens between our worlds, I will protect the bond we share." Daniel looked at her, torn between hope and fear. "And what if your people force you to choose?" Her eyes softened. "Then I will choose with my heart." The words hung in the air, steady and certain. Daniel's breath caught, unsure how to reply. He wanted to reach for her hand, but held back, afraid of crossing a line he did not fully understand. Still, the distance between them felt smaller now, filled with unspoken trust. They stood together in silence, the night wrapping around them like a secret cloak. Finally, Arya turned, her gown brushing softly against the grass. She looked at him one last time, her expression both heavy and hopeful. "Until we meet again, Daniel." She moved back across the stones, her figure glowing faintly under the moonlight until the shadows of the trees swallowed her. Daniel stood by the river, heart pounding, knowing his life had shifted forever. He whispered her name, barely louder than the wind. Arya. Above, the stars shone quietly as if keeping their secret safe. The morning inside the flagship was tense. The royal council gathered once more in the grand chamber, their robes glinting under the sunlight that streamed through the tall windows. Arya stood at the head of the table, her posture calm, yet her mind was resolute. She had made a decision that could change her life and the lives of both humans and aliens forever. Lord Saren, the eldest advisor, leaned forward. His voice was steady, though there was an edge of concern. Your Highness, the humans are not fully understood. Your bond with one among them, especially a human with no noble lineage, may cause unrest among our people. Are you certain of your choice? Arya met his gaze directly. Yes, she said firmly. I am certain. My heart and my memory do not lie. The human named Daniel once saved my life when I was lost and afraid. He showed me courage, kindness, and hope. That is a truth no council order can erase. A murmur spread among the other advisors. Lady Elira stepped forward, her expression troubled. Princess, this is unprecedented. Your attachment may be seen as favoritism, and it risks diplomatic confusion. Our people may question your judgment. How do you respond to that? Arya lifted her chin, her voice calm but strong. I respond that compassion and truth are greater than fear of judgment. Daniel is not just a human to me. He is a reminder of our responsibility to understand other worlds, to see beyond distance and difference. If I allow protocol to guide my every decision, we will gain nothing from Earth. If I allow kindness to guide me, we may build trust that lasts generations. Lord Saren's face hardened. You risk the respect of your people. They may view your choice as weakness. You are heir to the throne, Princess. You cannot allow personal feelings to overshadow duty. Arya shook her head. Duty is not only power. Duty is also the courage to act with conscience. I will not betray the one who saved me. That human has taught me more about strength than any council decree or tradition ever could. The room was silent. The council had no answer. They could not argue against the truth of her words. The memory of the lost girl in the forest, the kindness she had received, and the bond that had survived years across worlds all weighed on them. Meanwhile, in the town below, Daniel stood with a small group of humans who had been invited to observe the council's deliberations from a distance. His heart raced as he watched the flagship through the binoculars. He had learned from rumors that Arya would speak today. He did not know what to expect, yet he felt a strange certainty. Whatever she decided, it would change everything. Inside the chamber, Arya took a deep breath. She spoke loudly, addressing all advisors and guards. I choose Daniel. I choose to honor the bond that once saved me. If my people question me, I will answer with truth. If the council doubts me, I will act with integrity. This is my choice. The chamber went quiet, the words echoing in the high ceilings. No one moved. The guards seemed unsure how to react. The advisors exchanged glances, some shocked, others contemplative. Arya's decision had broken tradition, yet it had also revealed the courage of her spirit. A young guard stepped forward hesitantly. Your Highness, may I ask how this affects our diplomatic mission? Arya looked directly at him, steady and confident. It strengthens it. If we cannot see the value in one human, how can we hope to understand humanity as a whole? Daniel is not a threat. He is a bridge between our worlds. By recognizing him, we honor the potential in both species. Lord Saren exhaled slowly, his stern face softening just slightly. You speak with the wisdom of one who has seen more than most. I will not hide my concern, Princess, but I understand your choice. We will follow your guidance, though the path may be difficult. Arya nodded once firmly. She knew the challenges ahead, yet she felt an unshakable peace. She had made her decision with courage and conscience. The choice that had once seemed impossible now felt right. That evening, as the sun set over the earth, Arya made her way to the riverbank where Daniel often walked. He was there, waiting, though he did not know if she would come. When she appeared, her steps were calm and certain. Daniel felt his heart leap at the sight of her. You made your choice, he said softly. I did, she replied, her blue eyes shining. I chose to honor what is real. I chose you, Daniel. Daniel stepped closer, the river between them reflecting the fading sunlight. I never expected. I didn't know this could happen. I don't know if I deserve this. Arya shook her head. It is not about deserving. It is about truth and the bond we share. That night in the forest you showed me courage. That courage continues to guide both of us now. The river reflected their faces side by side, human and alien, different yet connected. They stood together in silence for a moment, understanding that the decision Arya had made would ripple far beyond themselves. It was a choice that bridged worlds. In the days that followed, both humans and aliens began to notice a change in how the princess carried herself. She walked with quiet confidence, her bond with Daniel known to no one else yet felt by everyone who observed her. A bridge had been built, fragile yet strong, between two worlds that had once only glimpsed each other across the stars. The days that followed Arya's declaration were filled with preparation and quiet anticipation. The royal fleet stayed near Earth, and Princess Arya moved freely among humans in a carefully planned schedule. Though her guards remained close, she found moments to observe life on Earth, walking through towns, forests, and riverbanks, the same landscapes she had once known. Daniel continued his daily routine, but now noticed the presence of her people everywhere. At first he felt nervous, unsure how the world would react to their connection. But the moments he spent near Arya, even in passing, gave him courage. Every time their eyes met, he remembered the forest, the river, and the night she had risked being seen to speak to him. The human scientists and leaders who observed her began to notice a change in the alien princess. She carried herself with wisdom and grace, her presence inspiring calm and trust. Where some humans had feared the aliens, many began to see them as beings capable of understanding and friendship, and the bridge between the two worlds was growing quietly without force or war. One afternoon, Arya invited Daniel to a small courtyard in the town. No one else was present. The sunlight reflected off the silver-blue tones of her gown, and her eyes held a calm warmth. Daniel's heart beat quickly, not from fear, but from recognition of the journey they had shared. "You see how they watch us?" she asked softly, gesturing to the faint shadows of observers at the edge of the courtyard. Daniel nodded. "Yes, they are cautious, but I think they are starting to understand. Your choice, standing for truth, it matters more than we know." Arya smiled faintly. "It does, and it proves that one bond can ripple far beyond ourselves. One act of kindness, one moment of courage can change how entire worlds see each other." Daniel felt the weight of her words. He remembered the night in the forest, the fear in her eyes, and the trust she had placed in him. He had thought it was a simple act, but it had shaped the path they were on now. As the weeks passed, small events began to show the fruits of their connection. Humans and aliens worked together on projects, sharing knowledge and learning from each other. Cultural exchanges began, and misunderstandings slowly faded. Everywhere people looked, the presence of the princess and her acknowledgement of Daniel encouraged trust. It was as if the simple bond they shared carried the promise of peace. One evening, Daniel and Arya walked together along the riverbank where they had first met secretly. Max ran ahead, barking happily. The air was soft and calm, carrying the faint scent of the forest and the river. "Do you ever think about that night?" Daniel asked. "All the time," Arya replied. "It taught me that strength is not always in power. Sometimes it is in care and courage to help when no one else will." "That moment changed me forever," Daniel smiled. "I never thought such a small thing could matter so much. I just did what seemed right." "That is why it mattered," Arya said. "It was real. And because it was real, it has created something greater than us both. Our worlds are learning to trust each other because of one human and one alien princess who believed in kindness." Daniel reached out, taking her hand in his. She did not pull away. Their fingers intertwined, human and alien, different yet equal in connection. They stood together, watching the sun set over the hills. The light touched the river, painting it gold, and the ships of her people reflected softly in the distance. It was quiet yet filled with meaning. Two worlds were learning to walk together, guided by the bond between them. Later, in the royal chambers aboard the flagship, Arya addressed her council. "We will continue to learn from humans," she said. "They are capable of courage, compassion, and intelligence. One human, one act of kindness has proven that we must look beyond our own rules and fears. Our mission is not to conquer, but to understand." The council remained silent, but many nodded slowly. They had seen the truth in her words. The princess had chosen wisely, and in doing so had shown the strength of compassion. Back on Earth, Daniel and Arya continued to meet secretly, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments by the river. Their connection became a symbol of what was possible when two worlds chose trust over fear, kindness over caution. People began to speak of them as a bridge not just between nations or species, but between hearts. One night as they sat side by side, Daniel looked at Arya. "I never imagined that saving someone could lead to this." Arya rested her head on his shoulder, her eyes reflecting the stars. "It did. And now we have a chance to show that one small act of courage can change more than just a single life. It can change worlds." They stayed there for a long time, silent but connected, human and alien, past and future entwined. Around them, the universe seemed to hold its breath, as if watching the beginning of something extraordinary. In the end, their story became more than theirs alone. It became the story of trust, courage, and compassion, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness could build bridges between worlds and hearts alike. And in that quiet night by the river, Daniel and Arya knew one truth would never change. They had found each other again, and together, they could help their worlds find a new way forward.